Eric Weddle has proven himself to be one of the best safeties in the game for quite some time now. When I found out he wasn't going to return to the Ravens, I was very interested to see where he was going. I have made a video about him in the past, and I really do think he's a very talented player, even at this age. And so I love the move from the Rams' perspective. I think it makes a lot of sense, and let me get into why I think it makes a ton of sense. First off, let's talk about how good of a player he is in coverage. If you take a look at this play, for example, it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and there is an underneath route going right there. This is basically a dump-off play. This is basically a break glass in case of emergency. If nothing is open, just throw it to that receiver. It won't be a ton of yards, but it could pick up 5 yards, or maybe even a first down if he breaks a tackle. And now if you actually notice, this should be a good situation. I mean, he clearly has a ton of space from Eric Weddle, and this could be a very good play for the Bengals. However, take a look at how quickly Eric Weddle reads the play, sees what's going on, and is able to crash in and make a play on the receiver. I mean, he does it almost instantly. He reads the play well, breaks in and makes a tackle, and really I think that's where Eric Weddle shines, is his ability to make reads, and is his ability to see what's going on. One of the really interesting things about a safety is it's one of the only positions where you can actually see the entire field. No other position do you have the angle where you can see the entire field, at least in terms of defense. And so having a smart player who has great field vision like Eric Weddle in your secondary can definitely help greatly. That's probably my favorite thing about him at this age, is his ability to read what's going on, and this play will be another very good example of that. If you take a look, it is going to be a cover 1 play, as he is the only safety who's back. And you're also going to notice that Cincinnati has 4 receivers in the game, which is making it seem as though it is going to be some sort of passing play. However, that's not going to be the case at all. It actually is going to be a run to the middle of the screen. So typically the whole point of this play is basically try to fool the Ravens and get them as far away from the middle of the field as possible. Now, it's very rare for a free safety to get into the play on a situation like this. However, Eric Weddle is still going to be able to get into the play on a situation like this, despite playing free safety on this play. He reads what's going on, and is actually very patient in running forward. He makes sure that nothing's going to get past him, because that is still part of his job at this point, even though it's not a passing play, is to make sure no one gets past him. I mean, you're called a safety for a reason. The reason is you don't want to give up a touchdown no matter what. If a touchdown did happen on a play like this, it would probably be a free safety's fault. But Weddle is very careful to make sure nothing gets past him, and he also still runs up very fast, and is able to help get into the play and make a tackle. I mean, that didn't really make a big difference, obviously, but I think it just goes to show how well he can see what's going on in front of him. Well, it probably doesn't have to be mentioned, but that never stopped me before. If there was a passing play deep to the middle of the screen, and Weddle did break in to try to stop a run, but turns out it was just play action or something, it could lead to an easy touchdown. But he read the play well, and was able to help the Ravens get a stop on this play. This next play is another interesting one of showing how smart of a player he is. If you take a look, it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and that's where Weddle is on the screen. So he's in charge of covering that zone closer to the bottom half of the screen. So often in a situation like this, he actually wouldn't be in the play too much. What Pittsburgh is going to do is send a tight end to run that route right there, and that's basically going to try to force the Raven, who's in charge of covering that zone, to go deep, and then they'll have another receiver, then simply run underneath him. Roethlisberger can hit him, and it should just pick up some yards. Once again, this is not a game-changing play, but it is designed to pick up some yards. Now, this is going to be a bad throw, and it ends up getting dropped anyways, but take a look at how quickly Weddle gets in that area, and is able to be in position to try to make a play. He's basically abandoning his assignment here, but that's a good thing in some situations, and this is one of those situations. I mean, they're clearly picking on a zone right next to you, and there's no one in your zone, so why not go over and try to help that guy out? It was a smart play by Weddle. If he misread the play and it turns out that there was a Steeler running in his zone, that Steeler would get wide open easily. However, he saw what was happening, and if that was a catch, Weddle would have been in position to make a tackle, whereas if he stayed in his assigned zone and it was a catch, it could have easily gone for a first down. This play is another very interesting one, this time from the running game, and if you take a look, that's where the 2 safeties are on the screen, and it's actually going to be a robber technique, which means they're both in charge of covering those 2 zones right there, and Eric Weddle is the guy in charge of the zone closest to the line of scrimmage, so that basically means that he's in charge of taking away short passes. That's his main goal on this play, but take a look at what's going to end up happening here. Since it is going to be a running play, basically what James Conner is going to do is fake as though he's going to the top half of the screen, and this is actually going to work out very well as it gets both Baltimore linebackers to run up in that direction. So now really the next closest guy is Eric Weddle, and if you take a look, he's very far away, and this should lead to an easy big game for the Steelers, not to mention there's a ton of space where he could try to get around Weddle and pick up even more yards. However, Weddle makes the read so quickly, gets in so quickly, and makes a very good tackle that Conner barely picks up anything. I mean, that was a great play at the line of scrimmage for Conner, but they were only able to get a couple of yards out of it. I think that really just goes to show how game-changing a player like Weddle can be. I mean, he really can take advantage of these situations in huge ways. I mean, typically when you think of a great safety, you think of like Earl Thomas, who can break in, intercept a pass, and then run it all the way for a touchdown, you know, plays like that. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of what being a safety is just stopping the bleeding when other guys make mistakes. No defense is perfect, and defenses are going to have plays that don't work out the way they wanted it to. But if you have a great safety, whether it's strong or free, they can really help limit those mistakes and have them not cost you that much. Instead of giving up a first down when you make a mistake, you just give up a couple of yards, which is a huge difference. However, speaking of mistakes, Weddle definitely isn't perfect. Like on this play, for example, it is going to be a cover 3 zone, and that's where Eric Weddle is on the screen. Basically right now, he's just evaluating which route he thinks needs to be helped covered the most. He sees that there is space between that Titan and that Raven who are right over there, and since that Titan is running that route, which is great against man coverage, this now means that he could get wide open. There is another Titan and Raven right over there, but the Raven's defensive back does have a bit of a step on him, and so Weddle is going to trust that he can continue to make his play well, and he's going to actually cut in instead. This now leads to a wide open Titan, and really was just a missed throw away from it being a big gain. That was almost a huge play, and that's a play that really can't happen. So again, Weddle isn't perfect, he will make the occasional mistake. I just want to bring that up, because I want to be fair, and the fact of the matter is, every player makes mistakes, including a great player like Eric Weddle. I also definitely think that he thrives in the running game instead of the passing game, which is why I think it made a lot of sense for Baltimore to move on from him and sign Earl Thomas, since they have another guy who can play strong safety anyways. But here's another play of how it can be so successful. It's actually going to be a cover 2 zone, and the basic blocking concept for Tennessee is going to be pretty simple. They're going to have their center and left guard double team an interior lineman, and they're going to have their left tackle have a 1-on-1 matchup on the edge. From there, both receivers can block those 2 Ravens right there, meaning the next closest Raven who could try to get into the play is Eric Weddle. One thing worth noting just right off the bat is the fact that look at how close Eric Weddle is to the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's a solid 3 yards closer than the safety on the bottom half of the screen, so he's definitely ready for a potential run. And since it is going to be a run to the top half of the screen, this now means that he's going to be the next closest guy who can get into the play, but he does actually run up and get into the play, and is able to get a stop. If you notice, every Titan made their block here. This play actually worked out exactly how Tennessee drew it up, but the problem is that Eric Weddle is just so good at limiting the damage when you do make a good play. He's just a really aware guy, especially in the running game. He seemingly always realizes who has the ball and which direction they're trying to run the ball with. But of course, that works both ways. Not only is it important to see when it is a running play, well, it's important to see when it's not a running play. And on a play like this, for example, it actually is going to be set up as though it is going to be a running play, largely because there's a tight end and 2 backs in the game. That's where Weddle is on the screen, and he's actually not going to be playing strong safety, he's going to be playing free safety instead. And the second the ball is snapped, he instantly breaks back and is able to get into his position. And I already know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, yeah, of course he was able to do that because he's free safety and not strong safety. However, as I've shown before, he definitely can get into the play even when he's playing free, so I really don't think that's a fair statement to make. He breaks back, realizes what's going on, but now there's another situation developing. He sees Matt Ryan is going to try to hit that Falcon right there, so take a look at what he's doing. He's already getting ready to cut back in. This is actually kind of similar to that play I showed you earlier, where he misread what was going on, broke in, and allowed a receiver to get open past him. There is another receiver running past him, however, this time he read the play correctly, realized that it actually was going to be a pass in that direction, and then broke in and tried to make a play. Granted, that pass was so quick and the tackle was so quick that he was never going to get into that play anyways. However, I do think it was worth mentioning that he did realize what was going on very quickly and broke in at the correct time. So that's kind of Eric Weddle to a T. He does struggle a tiny bit in the passing game, but not a ton, and he does a tremendous job of making reads and seeing what's going on. Really, probably the 3 most important positions it is to make reads would be number 1, quarterback, obviously, and then I would say number 2 is middle linebacker, and number 3 is safety, and honestly, you could argue between 2 and 3. I think you can make the argument that a free safety making reads is more important than a middle linebacker, although I personally wouldn't. So that's Eric Weddle, but let's talk about the Rams. And really, I mean, the Rams had a pretty solid defense last year. However, I definitely noticed some inconsistencies when it came to their safeties, especially in the postseason. Like on this play, for example, it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and what the Cowboys are going to do is have a receiver run out the block, and then have a tight end run out to the top half of the screen and try to pick up some yards. This is essentially a pick play, so if you try to run a pick play against a guy like Eric Weddle, it definitely wouldn't work at all. He would realize what's going on and break around that receiver. Now if we take a look, the receiver is very much running out to try to make a play on that defensive back. However, the defensive back is still looking over at the quarterback. I don't think he ever even saw that the receiver was coming and ends up running straight into the receiver and basically blocks himself out of the way. You have to think that a veteran like Eric Weddle wouldn't have made a mistake like this, and I really do think that adding a veteran like him into this Rams defense can be a huge advantage. This plays another interesting example. If we take a look, what New England is going to do, this was in the Super Bowl obviously, and what New England is going to do is have their left tackle, left guard, right tackle, and tight end all have one-on-one matchups, and then they're going to have their center and right guard both move up to block the 2 linebackers right there, which is now going to actually leave Aaron Donald unblocked. However, to have James Devlin in the area as well, who can one-on-one block him. And when you have a great blocking team like the Patriots, who really have 7 guys who can make blocks, this now makes things very difficult for opposing defenses. Really, the whole point of a play like this is now you need your strong safety to get into the play. However, take a look at the Rams' strong safety on this play. He's going to actually break in, and he's in good position to make a tackle. However, he just misses the tackle. That's a 10-yard pickup, and again, it should be mentioned that the Rams defense played absolutely outstanding in the Super Bowl, so you can't really blame them for the loss at all. I'm just showing that Eric Weddle can patch things up and have them play a little bit better. One other way he can help is by with disguise. Wade Phillips really is a master of disguise, and I really thought he did a tremendous job of fooling Brady all throughout that Super Bowl. Like on this play, for example, as of right now, it looks very clear as though it could be a cover 1 hole. That would be great news for the Patriots, as they do have a receiver running that route right there, which would be a great way to beat cover 1. However, if you notice, this isn't going to be a cover 1 hole at all. This is going to be zone coverage, and it's a cover 3 zone. One of the key problems with this is that means that now that Ram right there is going to have to run a lot farther to get to the bottom of the screen. However, he is able to break back, and he ends up knocking the ball up, and it results in an interception. And while I'm not Tom Brady, so I can't read his mind, I'm pretty sure the reason he threw that pass was one of two things. Either he thought it was man coverage, or he thought that Ram wasn't going to be able to break down and be able to make that play. But either way, he was wrong. The Ram was able to make the play, and they were able to get an interception out of it. The reason I'm bringing up this play is because I want to show how having disguises can really benefit a defense, and having a guy like Eric Weddle, who can really do everything pretty well, definitely can help a defense a lot. I mean, again, if they have Eric Weddle in the Super Bowl, they probably still lose unless they don't give up any points because they only scored 3. However, of course, it would be silly to say because of that means that they don't need Eric Weddle. Everyone can use talent, and really worst case scenario with signing Eric Weddle is he turns into a rotational player who can definitely be an asset in terms of seeing what's going on the field. I like the move from the Rams' perspective. I think it could work out very well, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how he fits in that defense next season.